up guys, Matt here coming to you from Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson. So I think it's been my lucky couple months because I got to talk to Brad twice in the last few months here. So I'm here with Brad Richards, the VP of Design and Creative Director at Harley-Davidson Motor Company. So today we're talking about the brand new bike that was just launched. So this is the 5th bike they've come out with in the Icon series. And so I'm gonna let Brad talk a little bit about this awesome new 1990 Fat Boy and everything about the finishes. When you first look at this bike, it's like, wow, the whole thing is chrome, but there's more to it than that. So thanks for joining me, Brad. Thanks for coming out.
You're welcome. Thanks for letting us host the unveiling at your dealership. One of the most beautiful Harley dealerships I think I've ever seen. So I appreciate all the work you guys have put into it and letting us come and hang out here today and unveil the bike.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah. It's been an honor.
Sure. So, I mean, it's a homage to the 1990 Fat Boy, the bike 35 years ago. That bike became such an icon for us, right? I mean, I call it the postmodern Harley because up to that point in my mind, I thought I knew what a Harley was. But when Willie and Louie unveiled that thing in '90, it really changed my perception of Harley-Davidson. And I remember being in design school and going to a dealership to see it and just being blown away. So here we are 35 years later. It's an honor to actually design the bike that's a homage to that motorcycle. And we had so much fun doing it.
Yeah. Well, the Fat Boy has come a long way. I really appreciate in Harley-Davidson's advertising for this bike, they talk about all the different versions of the Fat Boy and through the 35 years that you've mentioned and just how far this bike has come. And I think in its physical form that it's in right now, a lot can be attributed to the major overhaul that Harley did to the Softail chassis in the 2018 model year. Yeah, earlier you were talking a little bit about scaling up a lot of the parts on this bike because this is quite a bit fatter than the 1990 version, right?
Yeah, when we designed the 2018 lineup, we brought I called Bill Davidson and he was gracious enough to lend us a 48 pan head from the museum, from the archives. And we rolled it into the studio and I put it right by the door of the studio so that the creative team would have to see it every time they come in and out of the studio all day long. And we tried to do that because I don't want the motorcycles to grow too large. Like if you see some of bikes and cars and things, they tend to have a tendency to grow when they're redesigned. Think of like the Mini Cooper or the Bronco. They're beautiful designs, but they're a lot bigger than the vehicles that inspired them. So for 18, we were really conscientious about keeping heritage about the size of the 48 panhead. But this bike was different because in my opinion, the Fat Boy has a presence. When you walk around that motorcycle, you can sense it's in the room even if you're not looking at it. It sounds crazy, but it really, I mean, it's just the way that it's designed. It truly is an icon. So here we are 35 years later. It's the 5th icon, like you said. And exactly what you're talking about is what we did. We scaled some things up just a little bit in 2018 with the nacelle, the wheels, the fenders, some of the sections and some of the design details on the motorcycle. We just made a little bit bigger than that 48 so that the bike has a presence about it. It feels a little bit larger than life. And and then after, of course, Terminator, the bike had it was larger than life, right?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that have made this bike iconic over the years. So I think it's a very suiting model to be made into an icon. I've said this many times, I've heard you say it as well. When people think of Harley-Davidson, the first model they think of is Fat Boy. And so this truly is one of the most iconic bikes that Harley-Davidson has ever made. And so let's talk a little bit about what separates this bike from a typical Fat Boy. And when you first look at this, like I mentioned, it's like, wow, the entire thing is chrome. It looks like the fenders and the tank have all been dipped in chrome. That's not really the case, right?
No, this is PVD. So it's a finish that looks a lot like chrome. It's got that mirror finish. And that's really what we wanted to do. We were trying to figure out what finish are we going to put on this icon? Because the original one was so powerful it wasn't a really overtly loud design, the 90 Fat Boy. So we wanted this one to feel that way too. Like we didn't want to go over the top, but we did want to do something that felt like a step up from that in terms of finishes. So at the same time, our engineering team and our color material team, they were working on this finish. And we were trying to figure out where's it going to land. Sometimes it takes a few years to get these things to be manufacturable. Because this thing has to meet all of the rigorous standards that every paint job we've ever done on a Harley-Davidson meets. And that's really tough to do because we do really good paint. So there were a lot of people working on that. And then we had the 35th anniversary of the bike coming up. These two things were kind of coming together and I'm like, oh, this could be amazing, And sometimes it doesn't work that way. But this one, I have to give a lot of credit to the engineering team. the manufacturing team and the supply team, because they made this come to life. And there were some moments where it was like, man, are we going to be able to pull this thing off? And they locked on and they brought it to life. And like so I have so much love for those folks that made this come to life. And I think it's really fitting, because now when we're sitting here looking at this thing, it just looks amazing in this beautiful, setting California sun. It's like, in my mind, it's kind of like, this is what it was supposed to look like, and we just nailed it,
Yeah, well, I mean, technology and paint and everything has probably come a long way since 1990. I don't think this would have been possible back 35 years ago. So kudos to the engineering team and the design team on this.
And Matt, real quick, it is just like paint. So it's PVD. The best way to describe, I can't tell you exactly how we do it because it's our own proprietary technique, and I'd love to use it on some other things in the future. Yeah, who knows? But it's basically, it's just like, it's really, you treat it like paint if you own it. There's primer, then there's the PVD finish that looks like this mirrored finish, and then there's clear coat. And so if you wash it and clean it like paint and polish it like paint, and if you get a nick in it, as long as it's not through the clear, you can polish it out just like paint. So I know some folks are probably freaking out about, oh, is it going to hold up and all that stuff? Well, they really went through the lengths to make sure that it would, and that it's not some type of unique owner experience. It just acts like paint.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, someone made the comment earlier about, oh, if you scratch this, you're screwed, right? And no, we were told that you could buff it out just like any paint finish because of the clear coat.
Plus, our clear coats are so tough, right? So you've got that before you even you get a scratch. You're probably not going to get a scratch.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Harley-Davidsons are built to last forever. They're not disposable bikes. They're heirlooms, right? And so 100%. This is meant to be purchased and enjoyed for generations, right?
100%.
You mentioned Terminator earlier, and that's one of the biggest bar scene of all time, in terms of Harley-Davidsons being integrated into Hollywood. And I think somebody mentioned that, well, this is the T1000 bike because it looks like liquid metal almost.
we were very aware of that might get thrown into the narrative, or someone might ask that question. It wasn't intentional, but
Well, we'll talk to Robert.
I was going to say, Robert, if you're watching this,
Robert Patrick, yeah.
I'm going to say that you were an inspiration, so thank you, sir.
That's cool. I noticed a couple Easter eggs on this bike as well. So there's, typically on the Icons bike, we see about 1,500 produced globally, but I noticed there's 1,990 of these made globally, which is the model year that the Fat Boy was first introduced. Yeah. That's kind of cool. The other one that I kind of saw as well is like the tassels, the leather work on the seat, and right here on the center console is very reminiscent of the 1990 as well. And I've also noticed the lower rocker box covers have that yellow that was present on the 1990 as well.
There's also the frame, so painted frame.
Thank you.
So, and then the engine cases are also silver. So this thing has a whole bunch of custom finishes on it, just like you mentioned. We tried to pay homage to some of the Western details that Willie and Louie put on the bike. Willie's especially, he's an aficionado of Western cultures, and he's really Native American culture, for sure. I know for a fact that he's passionately collects a lot of those things. So I think that's what I'm guessing. I haven't asked him personally, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's why some of these Western details did end up on the 90. And so we wanted to pay the concho with the tassels. Heck yeah. It all is trying to be just what can we do to give some more love to that 90 Fat Boy that did so much for our brand.
Well, the details I think go a long way with people, and the fact that I love this series. I don't know whose idea it was at the factory, but the fact that you have this long, rich history of motorcycles in the Harley world, and people love old Harley-Davidson so much to bring some of these back. And I mean, this bike obviously performs in the technology that just came out this year, the 25 model year, with all the rider aids on here.
Ride modes.
The ride modes, thank you, and the 117 motor. You get a cool homage to the 1990 Fat Boy with all the modern technology on these bikes. And so this is a bike that you can rip out. I usually refer to this as like a muscle cruiser because it's one of those fat tire, rip it, hauls ass. And so I think it's great that someone can get a bike like this and really celebrate Harley-Davidson's history.
Yeah, well, you nailed it. I mean, it's got all of the great new features, plus it has the history. I mean, that's really what we're about. And we talked in our last video just about, we want to give customers that modern experience, but we don't want the modern experience to detract from the aesthetics, especially with a cruiser.
Well said.
Right? Cruiser is all about self-expression and emotion, and it's not about the fastest and the lightest and the most tech. It's about what do I feel like when I'm sitting in this motorcycle? Who do I want the world to perceive me as a person? That's really what a cruiser is about, more so than all that other stuff. The fact that we have all that other great stuff in here is just that's great. You have to have it. It's the price of admission nowadays. But really, if any of our motorcycles don't strike an emotional chord, we've really missed on something.
Yeah, last time we spoke, you really talked about the different stances, rider stances on the bikes, and so I'll link a link in the top right-hand corner to that video if you guys want to see my sit down with Brad. We go over all the Softails that launched in the 25 model year and just a huge revamp and all the technology that was applied to these bikes this year, and so definitely check that out. So, you gonna get one, Brad, or?
You know, someone asked me, would you take a 90 or this one? And I was like, oh my good, you know, the first Fat Boy means a lot to me. Again, I hadn't, Harley wasn't really on my radar in 1989. You know, I was just, I was 2 years into design school. And I was more about cars and planes. That's what I wanted, you know. And then someone brought a brochure in for the 90 Fat Boy, and it was just like, I was like, what is that thing? It looks like it was just like chiseled out of a solid piece of metal. And then I went to a dealership and remember seeing it and just being like blown away. And then another Fat Boy connection that I had is one of my bosses at Ford Motor Company when I was working there. He had a Fat Boy and hadn't ridden it in a while, and he heard me talking to another designer about going to the 100th anniversary of Harley in Milwaukee, 2003. And he's like, and I had another brand, and I'm not going to say what it was, but I'm like, I'm not riding that to Milwaukee. And so my boss goes, well, take my Fat Boy.
Oh, nice.
And so I took it. And that was that ride to Milwaukee, and it did everything. I mean, that absolutely hooked me to the brand. So the Fat Boy means a lot, you know, to me, and so it's an honor to work with the team to bring another one to life like this.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate the time you spent, Brad, and yeah, really excited about this bike. So just a couple details that people always ask. MSRP on this thing is 25.3. Is that what we said?
Yeah, 25.3 and change, I think.
Right around there. So a stock, black one, a non-icon model, I should say, is a little over 23. So you're a couple $1,000 more for this thing, which to get a limited serialized, these are serialized bikes as well. So to get a limited edition serialized bike with these high-end finishes on here, the cases, the frame and everything, and have just a piece of Harley-Davidson history celebrated in this type of bike, I think it's a good value. You know, so there will probably be only a few available at every dealer in North America anyway. So if you guys are interested in a bike like this, definitely leave a deposit at your local Harley-Davidson dealership because this will be a very limited production bike. Yeah, I can't wait to get our first one. This is just kind of one that's here with the motor company.
I promise. Okay. Hopefully not just one.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks again, Brad.
Yeah,
and
thanks, man.
We'll see you next time, man.
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you. Yeah. Bye, everybody.